All right, what is going on, fishing family? As y'all can see, we are live now, and we are joined by the man with the beard that everyone is jealous of. Like Duck Dynasty just wishes they had that beard. Okay,
That's
they're
right.
that they are not on the level that Mr. Rudd is, Mr. Alex Rudd from Alex Rudd Fishing, of course, and of course my co-host, Mr. Marshall, Mr. Ned Rigg himself, Georgia Bass Master. Oh man, this has just been so. I've been so stoked about this for the past week, man. I've been trying to get you on this forever, and it's just so awesome to finally get you on here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be on here, man. Thank you for having me on.
I appreciate you coming. I do, man. It's gonna be awesome. A lot of people have actually asked me if I've been glutton for punishment by having both of you guys on at the same time, saying, "Hey, didn't you make fun of this guy for breaking his leg?" I was like, yeah. And you have him on the stream? I'm like, yeah. Because, didn't you also make fun of the other guy for fishing a rig and now he has to because of a giveaway? I said, yeah. He's like, okay, I think you want to get punished. I'm like, it's all in good fun.
Yeah.
But
fun. Yeah.
But anyway.
13 weeks on the couch is super fun. It's great, man. I only cried a little bit when you made fun of me. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I got proof you laughed some now because you actually said you liked the Harry and the Henderson joke.
Yeah, dude, that was pretty funny. I did laugh at that one because I've been called Harry and the Hendersons many times. Like, that's the guy I'm always compared to. We do have similar beards if you really think about it. We both got that kind of multicolor thing going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, anyway, man. Okay, we actually got the chats are actually going to be blown up a little bit. So, but anyway, well, first thing I definitely have to ask is, you just recently had a tournament, a kayak tournament, and that was kind of going to be a primary focus of discussion because I kayak fish. Marshall also kayak fishes. So now the only thing about it is Marshall does not like tournament fishing. He says he cannot stand that pressure crunch. He says, I go fish to relax.
Yeah.
I don't want a tournament crunch.
I get it.
Yeah. What is it that draws you to the tournament fishing per se? Because and this is actually going to segue into your live with Bradley in a second. But what is it that draws you to tournament fishing for kayak fishing?
I tell you, man. For me, I'm super competitive, right? Like, I'm a super competitive person. I tell people all the time, there's people in competition with me that don't even know they're in competition with me because in my own mind, I set up like little competitions, with myself, with other people, because I'm always like just trying to outwork or outdo. And it's not even a sense of like to outwork or outdo, it's just how my brain works. You know what I mean? And so I'm super competitive. And so in bass fishing, I always wanted to find an outlet where I could be competitive, but I really didn't like boat tournament fishing. And it kind of stemmed from way back, when I first started fishing when I was like a little kid. Me and my dad would go fish these tournaments. And like we would start getting into some of these bigger tournaments, man, and just the culture around that, I didn't like the culture. It was a lot of just the attitudes and the things that people said and did and just the extent that people would go to cheat and try to win. It just deterred me. And so like forever, and me and Mikey Balls talked about this on my live stream. Forever, I was always looking for a way just to be like, give a middle finger to everybody and be like, look, I don't have to tournament fish, but I can still be successful in the fishing industry. But always back there in the back of my mind, there's that competitive aspect that I want to do. And so I had a buddy, Mr. Eric Romans, TM Bassin. He said, dude, listen, come try out kayak tournament fishing. You're gonna love it. And I was real apprehensive. And my first kayak tournament ever actually was a KBF on Nickajack. And Chad Hoover hit me up. He's like, listen, I'll pay for your tournament entry fee. Just come down there, record your experience. And because the whole experience of me being in a kayak in the first place was just to show everybody how to do everything wrong so they didn't have to do it wrong. You know what I mean? And so I went down there, I fished in the tournament, and just the culture around that kayak fishing tournament, dude, like everybody was, hey, how you doing, man? what's up? Like, what are you catching them on? It's like just a good back and forth. Like everybody's open, everybody's honest. If you need anything, they're willing to help you out. Like I remember I had something break on my kayak and some dude was like, oh wait, I got some parts in my truck. Let me go help you fix this. And like, it was just that kind of like bring me in culture that was willing to like just help you out that I fell in love with. And so I was like, okay, I can competitively tournament fish in a kayak and have a ton of fun doing it. And then too, the culture that I like is here. And I was like, then boom, I can run with this. I can do this. You know what I mean? And so I fell in love with kayak tournament fishing, man. I really, really do. It's something I truly enjoy. Like there's not many things left in the fishing world that like excites me that is new, but kayak tournament fishing for me, it's just super exciting. So
yeah, okay, well, no, that's actually a very interesting point of view, because honestly I kind of agree with you. I haven't done a kayak fishing tournament yet, but I just recently got into kayak fishing this past year because I was lucky enough to get one. But I was so shocked because I've kayak fished more than I've been fishing in a boat, but I've just recently started fishing in a boat. And you're right, I do see, I guess you would say, that different mentality, different personalities. Kayak fishing is so nice with that boat, man. Everybody's got, it's almost like if you don't know them, they got a chip on their shoulder.
Yep.
And I totally understand that, because it is, it's like I said, I've found out more about the kayak fishing recently than I did the boat. But the boat, I've been doing a little bit more here lately. But kayak fishing, I'm about to really kick back up.
Yeah.
But no, that's great. And I want to segue back in, because you had Bradley Hallman. Excuse me.
Hallman. Yeah.
Bradley Hallman. I'm thinking of Lake Hartwell. Excuse me. But Bradley Hallman on your stream last Friday, and he was actually talking about how he feels the tournament circuits in bass fishing right now just isn't, I guess you would say, as special as it used to be.
Yeah.
And I ain't gonna lie, I took a step back and I was like, hey, hold on now. And then, but then I stopped because I had Randy Howell on about a month ago.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how MLF is now starting to make it where anybody can compete.
Yeah.
So his words kind of ring true after I step back and think about it. Like you still have that same feeling, what Bradley is, that the tournament circuits maybe, are becoming like less of a special thing and more of anybody just can do it.
I don't know if it's as much as that is the fact, because I think within the fishing industry, right, you want it as accessible to everybody as it possibly can be, right? Because when you make it inaccessible for people, and I say this all the time, like professional bass fishermen, Bradley, I'll use Bradley as an example because I know Bradley. The life that he lives, the way that he fishes and those kinds of things is of the 1%, maybe even less than 1% of people who actually go out and enjoy fishing and enjoy the resource of our lakes and our public waters, right?
Yeah.
And so you've got to make it accessible. I think more what Bradley was getting the point at, and what I definitely agree with, is that it's just so jumbled now. Like there's way too much stuff going on. Like I can't keep up with who anybody is, what tournament they're fishing, what's going on, because like they're live streaming every Bass Nation event, they're live streaming every college event, they're live streaming every Elite Series event, they live stream the MLF, they live stream the Big Five, and it's like at some point during all of that, I go, okay, like this is just literally too much information for me to take in. I mean, because dude, I'm busy. Like this took forever for us just to get this coordinated, because I'm constantly like, go. That's the way my brain is. And so if I don't just have something like, if it's because I enjoy watching fishing and I enjoy watching professional fishing. And like right now, the Red Crest is on.
Yeah.
But starting tomorrow, the Elite Series is going to be on with the Red Crest. And then there may also be later on in the year the Elite Series, the MLF, and a Big Five MLF tournament and a Bass Nation tournament all going on within the span of a week. Like, how the heck do you look at all that and go, that's the thing that I want to watch? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the biggest thing that he's saying. But you're right. If you really do look at it, from your perspective, the more and more you get out there, the less special it becomes. Like if anybody can pay to play and become a pro, well then, man, let me tell you something. If I can find the money, Offshore Fishing will become a pro. Like seriously. Yeah, a great example of this is Rob. I mean, Rob from Lunkers TV can afford to pay. Yeah, Lunkers can afford to pay the tournament entry fees. And so for himself, because that's what he said, he's doing it for himself, he decided he's going to go fish these professional tournaments. Well, everybody in that field, I can promise you, throws on a jersey and says they're a pro in their Instagram bio, when really, truthfully, they're probably working a job and just driving to these tournaments and fishing, and they're not really, truly, quote-unquote, professional fishermen. And so it does kind of take away some of that, I guess, specialness to it, right? Like these are the top tier guys.
Yeah.
And so it's very
the one percenters.
The one percenters, exactly. And because, man, hey, let's all be honest. There's a lot of people that play football, but there's only one Tom Brady. There's a lot of people who play baseball, but there's only ever going to be, one Hank Aaron. There's a lot of people that play, whatever basketball. There's only going to be one LeBron James or Steph Curry or whoever it is. UFC fighters are another great example. I mean, there's only one Anderson Silva. Like, if you don't put an eliteness to the status that that person earns when they earn that status, then the professionalism, I think, starts to fade away, and it just turns into a pay-to-play sport.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is actually a guy that was not too clever. I mean, Mark Denny says, Bassmaster is the only thing that matters. Participation does not make you a pro.
Yeah. That's a great viewpoint.
Yeah, because I mean, you have to. I mean, if I'm still remembering correctly, don't you have to I know you have to qualify for the Bassmaster Classic, but that also means you have to qualify to participate in the Bass Elite Series the following year, right?
Yeah, so you can. I think there's one spot earned into the Classic through the Nation, which the Nation. I don't know how much it even exists anymore, to be honest with you. I've not kept up with it a long, long time. But you can earn one spot in through the Nation, and then you can earn a spot in by winning an Open, but winning an Open also qualifies you for the Elite Series.
Yeah.
And so you either finish in the top 5 of points in the Opens and you get a spot in the Elite Series, you win an Open and get into the Elite Series, or you're already in the Elite Series by whatever qualifications you're in there by.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Hey, Marshall, do you have any questions that because obviously I feel like I'm just talking all over you, man.
No, I'm just agreeing with everything Alex is saying right now. So I'm just listening.
You're just listening, all right.
I don't know too much about all the Bassmaster stuff, so y'all are kind of speaking above me.
Yeah, because Laura, then let's start talking technicals, because honestly, for even you guys that do know or don't know, Alex has a new line of crankbaits that are now available on Monster Bass, which I have totally forgot to put the link up, but I will put a link down below in just a minute. Would you like to walk through, would you mind telling us about those designs? Like, I think didn't you go through Messer? You designed those through Messer, which I love his work, man. He is so sick.
Yeah.
But would you like to kind of tell us what led to those designs? And
absolutely. So essentially what happened was, Rick calls me one day and he was like, "Hey, I want you to design a bait. What do you want to design?" I said, "Well, I want to design a square bill." And he said, "We've already got a square bill." And I said, "Well, I don't like it." And he was like, "Okay, then what would you change about it?" And I said, "All right, first thing I want to do is I want to make it silent. I want to make my own colors in it. I want to change the hooks out to a higher quality hook, put a number 4 size on it, because in my mind, that's what every square bill should have on it that's in that 1.5 size." And I said, "And I want to make it just a little bit heavier so we can cast it a little bit easier." And he said, "All right, done." And I was like, "All right, awesome." And so then he hooked me up with Messer. And essentially what I did was I printed out blanks of square bills and I designed my crankbaits, took colored pencils, and here I went. I designed the colors that I wanted to see come to life. And Messer took those, he painted them up, he brought them to life. And here we are with the Alex Rudd Fishing Signature Hammerhead Square Bill from Monster Bass in the 4 colors that I designed. And all 4 colors. Go ahead.
I was going to say the Mud Runner rules. I love
Yeah,
that.
Mud Hunter.
Or Mud Hunter. Mud Hunter. Yeah,
Yeah,
I keep thinking, I'm sorry. But yeah, that Mud
You're
Hunter is just beautiful. I love that one, dude. I want that one so bad.
And so essentially what I did was I took ideas that, not even ideas, I took baits that I catch fish on and I tweaked them to everything that I've always said I wanted to see in them, right? And so like with the Rayburn Red, I wanted to see more gold and more gold iridescence. And so we put more gold, we put more gold iridescence into it. We put the methylate belly on it. The Mud Hunter, great example. There's nothing better than a brown back chartreuse crankbait. I mean, I've caught thousands of smallmouth on that color, right? Thousands of bass in muddy water on that color. But what I also like is I like a little bit of orange. And so we incorporated a more orangey brown color into the back, and we made Mud Hunter. You know what I mean? So you still got a brown and chartreuse, but it's just got that tinge of orange in it that I love so much. Juice Crawl. Juice Crawl, I'll be dead honest with you, and I've told everybody this, is based off an old bandit color that got discontinued a long, long time ago called Molting Crawl. Or no, Soft Shell Crawl. And that color right there, man, is like something that you can't find on the market anymore. There's variations of it, but there's not that exact color. And so we made that color, you know, with the pink belly, the tan sides, that kind of OD green, man. And then Magic Shad, man, is just that is my like experimentation color, right? I've been experimenting with colors for a long time. Purples and pinks. I have got a lot of confidence in purples and pinks for the simple fact that I've caught a lot of fish on it. And so I had never seen that much purple or that much pink brought into a crankbait. I'd only seen like tinges of it, right? Just enough to get their attention. And so I told Messer, I was like, let's make this experimentation bait and something I know will catch fish. And we made it. And that's kind of how we came to be, how the Hammerhead came to be.
Yeah, they're amazing looking baits. Hey, Marshall, I want to, talking about the creation of baits. You've been doing some experimenting, I think, in the past couple of days that just landed you some unbelievable fatties. And
yeah,
I keep, I've tried, please, Marshall, I want you to explain this beautiful creation that you made, because honestly, it's as awesome as it is, it still cracks me up that it worked. And I'm like, man, why hasn't someone tried this, or at least try to make it a bait that's anybody can buy, or marketed. So please tell us about that right quick.
Is it the first one I made or the second one I made?
It's the first one.
Okay, yeah. So basically, me and Fitz just come up with a name like a Chatterbama rig, the Alabama rig with the blade in the front.
Yep.
But you really need like an upgraded size blade because it's so much weight, it really needs a bigger blade. But it's a pretty good little concept. And I put the blade on, put a split ring, really light trailers and everything to, minimize the amount of weight on it. But I ended up catching a pretty good little bag. And as far as I know, nobody else has put a blade on the front end of an Alabama rig to date that I know of. And so that's going to be a pretty good video dropping pretty soon.
That is very interesting. Like, that's almost like it. Well, what's cool about it is if you think about it, it's like get their attention. Hey, it's here. And then the power of the Alabama rig just does what the power of the Alabama rig does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, so in stupid muddy water, you could still catch them on an Alabama rig. You know what I mean? It just gets that. It's like, what is that in my area? And then it's like, oh God, there's a ball of bait. I got to go try to kill it. You know what I mean? That's really interesting.
Oh, man. Like the first time you read it, Bobby, I thought it was so funny, but then he ended up sending me these pictures. I think he was catching like 4 or 5 pounders. So I'm like, dang, oh man. I said, okay, we got to figure out how to market this.
That's awesome, man.
But anyway,
Somebody
man.
$1 million on it. It's not going to be me. So.
Oh no, you need to. You need to just get you a utility patent and go to work on them, son.
I actually did. And the funny thing about it, he can draw, better than me. It's like part of his day job. But I drew up a concept and threw it to Rick, and I haven't heard back from Rick yet. But I'm not going to sit there and say that he's shot the idea down. He just said, "Is that an Alabama rig with a chatterhead blade or chatterbait blade?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "We might need to tweak the concept a little bit, but yeah," I said, "It works."
That's an interesting concept.
Send them the link when the video drops.
Oh man,
Changes
I
my-
can't wait for that. I can't wait for that, dude. That's gonna be so cool. Oh man. All right, so I know you say you hate it, and honestly, I'm kind of in agreement. Like I said, I teased Marshall about it, but I know for a fact because I've watched many of your streams, and you've talked about how you're a power fisherman. I'm also a power fisherman, and I hate finesse rigging, but I love finesse fishing, but I love to just like you would say, stir the pot or tease Marshall because he doesn't like it at all. But the tournament, like I said, that you just fished and actually put out, you actually used the Ned rig and caught something, which I'm not gonna lie, I kind of predicted at the moment when you were talking to your dad, and he said, and the moment he says, I would go, and I'm like, and now, the moment he said that, you actually hooked up. I'm just like, the moment someone gives you advice, that's when you get the bites.
Yep.
But what was like? I think you were using a Net Ocho.
Yes. Yeah.
Was that? It was a Strike King Net Ocho. Was it? Did you do any particular custom work to it? Like, did you add like a color to it, or was it all like I guess you would say just out of the packet, ready to go?
No, so I took a green pumpkin, just standard green pumpkin Net Ocho, and then I took a dye pen and dyed the tail of it orange, just to give it kind of that, this time of year, you look at a lot of crawdads. I do a lot of creek hopping and rock turning and look for crawdads, and a lot of them have a lot of orange on them this time of year, especially on the tips of their claws. And so just a little something to stand out in that little bit dirtier water and do a really good job of mimicking crawdads. So that's the only thing I did to it, though.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I was just curious about that because now I've seen the markers that y'all have used, and I've been trying to get a hold of some, but I wasn't exactly sure if you had marked that up. Now, when it comes now, honestly, this is something I want to talk about because I had mentioned it to you like on and off throughout in passing conversations talking about the smallmouths, and because I've never had a chance to go fish an area that had them, and I'm praying that I will get a chance to this year. But would you have any recommendations to anyone that's never fished smallies and like how they should approach it? Because you've even told me like they're just like mean, aggressive bass. Like their ways of feeding is actually whacking the bait with their, stun it with their tail, and then they come back and get it.
Yeah.
So would you have any recommendations for somebody that is, about to come up to the northern waters and try to fish for smallies?
I'll tell you, man, like up north, it's honestly kind of silly. Like northern fishing is silly in the fact that they have a cap over their head with the ice for about 4 months out of the year, right? And so they get a 4-month reset where they don't see human beings. And when that ice thaws out, they are eating every single thing that moves. And, but those fish up north are different too because of the forage that they eat, right? There's not a lot of big gizzard shad up there. There's not a lot of brim and bluegills where the smallmouth actually live. Most of these smallmouth fisheries, especially up north, and we'll kind of talk about where I'm at in the country here in a minute, but up north, like where my buddy Ben lives, they're glacier style lakes. And so what that means is there used to be a glacier sitting there, a few thousand years ago, and it melted over time, and it left just a big hole in the ground. And that hole is full of usually incredibly clear water. And these smallmouth just swim around in there, and they eat crawdads and gobies and little perch and stuff like that. And so the average meal size for most of those smallmouth up there is 2-3 inches at most, maybe 4 or 5, like if you get into some of the Cisco and stuff. But for the most part, 2-3 inches. And so everything that I throw up north when I go northern fishing is Ned rig size, drop size, small swim bait size. It's just because that's what those fish really, really key in on. And so if you're northern smallmouth fishing, definitely focus on the fact that you're probably going to have to finesse fish for them. It's the simple fact of it. And it's why my buddy Ben owns, like 6 or 7 spinning rods and I only own 2 because he's constantly got something finesse in his hand. Now down here, Tennessee, the Southeast smallmouth fishing, we got it good because we've got smallmouth that are big, they're mean, they're pissed off, and they eat 6 and 7 inch gizzard shad. You know what I mean? Like they are more adapted and more kind of keyed in on those bigger baits. And so, down here a lot this time of year, what we do is a lot of dam discharge fishing, highland reservoir fishing. So your Highland reservoirs, really this time of year, and I've said this, and I asked the biologist about it that I had on the podcast a few weeks ago. I really, truly believe smallmouth around here start to bite in the winter because of two factors. Number one, the water gets cold enough that they're comfortable enough to move around in shallower water. And number two, the water gets drawn down to where they actually live the rest of the year. And so, when we're on these Highland reservoirs, I'm cranking small body crankbaits, throwing swim baits, small, like 4 or 5 inch swim baits, Alabama rig. Those are kind of the things that we target smallmouth with. And honestly, it's hard to target smallmouth because you'll end up hitting a stretch of bank where smallmouth live, and then you'll hit a stretch of bank where greenfish live, or they'll intermingle with each other. Now, the dam discharge fishing thing is just completely different. That is like Katie bar to the door, 7.6, heavy rod, 20-pound, fluorocarbon, and a 6-inch swim bait on a 3/4 ounce head, and you're in 5 to 6 miles an hour of current below a dam, and you're throwing that thing in there and burning it back as quick as you can move it to get it, keep it from getting hung up. And those big 4 and 5 pound smallmouth just come out and absolutely annihilate that thing. And so it's really cool. I mean, honestly, the contrast between fishing up north and like super clear water fishing and then fishing down here and getting to do all I do, smallmouth live everywhere, but they are very different in both places. It's really cool.
Yeah. Somebody actually has a question for you. The 10-horse Monty himself, Mr. Gabe Montgomery, was asking, what body of waters do you normally fish in your area?
So it honestly all just depends on the time of year that I'm fishing. So right now I'm focusing a lot more, kind of starting to refocus back on Tennessee River stuff, dam discharge stuff, more riverine styles of fishing. Throughout the winter and the fall, I'm focusing more on Highland reservoirs like Norris Lake, Cherokee Lake, Douglas Lake. And then summertime, man, I'm a river rat. So I'm fishing, Chickamauga, Watts Bar, Mountain Hill, running up into the tailwaters of Loudon Lake. Anything. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee. So anything within an hour and a half to 2 hours of me, if I know they're biting or I feel like I can go get on a certain bite just because of experiences I've had in the past, I'm going to drive there and I'm going to go try to do it. So
yeah. My wife had to twist the knife a little bit. This is her way of like just jumping in and just trying to make it where I'm gonna get in trouble. So, oh man, that's so funny. Marshall, didn't you? You went out fishing yesterday with that weather when we just got some amazing weather that felt like spring. Is there anything you would like to comment on that trip? Because I feel like it deserves a little bit of attention, even though you haven't released the video yet. And I'm not gonna lie, I was happy for you, but I wanted to throw my phone against the wall when you sent me the picture. Yeah. So please, would you like to explain, since you was talking about swim baits, would you like to explain what happened with you yesterday?
Yes. I'm the type of person to where obviously Ned rig works. You're gonna catch quantity. Usually, I mean, the exception proves the rule, but I'm the type of guy where I will throw an 8-inch swim bait all day long for 6 hours. If I
My man. Yeah.
And yesterday I went out and I was throwing it was a Bass Pro Shop 7-inch glide bait, and I got a 7.8. So it was a pretty good day yesterday.
That's awesome, dude. Congratulations. Good work.
Man, I got stuck at work. And
yeah,
I was like,
Elliot. So.
Oh God, yeah. He's like, hey, you going fishing? I'm like, I said, I'm stuck at work. I got to call him. It's like, I got to come right back. And he was like, oh, well, I caught this. And he sent me that picture. I'm just like, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there, just like,
that's one of those you start choking up a little bit, like,
yeah, like, I'm so happy for you.
Yeah. I'm so happy. I'm gonna kick you in the nuts next time I see you. Yeah. Trust me. When Ben starts like texting me either late in the summer or late in the fall, and he's like, "Oh yeah, man, like I cracked a 26-pound bag today," and I'm like, why do you even send me that? Like, don't send me that. Like, I don't need that in my life right now. I'm like, I can't barely, catch 15 pounds. You're over here cracking a 26-pound bag. So what part of Georgia do you live in, man?
I'm in northwest Georgia, and I'm like 40 miles west of Atlanta.
Okay, cool.
I'm in Central.
Yeah. So what lakes y'all? I mean, so what are like your primary lakes that you're focusing on?
I am an hour away from Altoona, an
Mm-hmm.
hour away from Wadowee in Alabama, an hour away from West Point below me. Lanier is about an hour and 40 minutes. So those are about
Nice.
my central lakes, close to me.
Cool. So tell me about Altoona. I've heard that it's an interesting lake.
We call it the Dead Sea, but
Yeah.
they drain it super low every year. They stock it with hybrids, obviously for like tourists or whatever to come fish for hybrids.
Mm-hmm.
And it really depletes the largemouth population.
Mm-hmm.
But because like if you go out there any tournament day of the year, and the winner of the tournament on a 5-fish sack, it's probably somebody that has a largemouth, and it's like maybe a 4-pound largemouth is going to win you a tournament out there. Like,
Wow.
it's just if somebody catches a 6-pounder at Altoona, it's just like everybody's posting it on Facebook. They can't believe it. But when it comes to spotted bass and like hybrids, that lake is phenomenal. You can catch 30 spotted bass out there every day, pretty much.
Yeah, that's kind of what I heard. I heard they put those hybrids in there, and they kind of outcompeted the largemouth.
Yeah.
And I said when I heard that was going on, I was like, that's gonna be a Lake Lanier or a Smith Lake, kind of scenario where you're gonna just have a bunch of spots that are suspended out in the middle of nothing, chasing balls of bait fish around. And you're going to be able to catch a lot of spots, but like that largemouth bite is going to be what really kind of takes that bag to the next level and what's wins tournaments down there. So that's interesting.
Exactly it. That's exactly it. 100%.
Yeah. So I got an interesting thing I want to ask you boys about it. And this is kind of stemming from the conversation we just had. It kind of got me thinking about it. So I was watching the Red Crest, right?
Yeah.
Zach Burge and Dustin Connell both played. There was 1 and 2. That's where they finished this day up at. Both of them were using forward-facing sonar to look at them, and they were throwing jerk baits to them in chocolate milk water and getting them to eat that jerk bait by watching them eat them on Panoptics or Live Scope or whatever, whatever forward-facing sonar that they were using. And I know guys who fish like Lanier and my buddy Ben who fishes up north, and these guys who fish these lakes using this forward-facing sonar. And even down here, there's not been a tournament won lately that forward-facing sonar didn't play literally the biggest tool in the whole entire tournament. Do you guys think that it's going to – I think it's already happened, but do you guys think that forward-facing sonar is going to completely change the world of fishing and make it where people literally just don't fish on the bank anymore and they're out in the middle of the lake doing figure eights looking for them?
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
I definitely feel that way. I've actually been fishing a couple of tournaments here lately, and forward-facing sonar has always played kind of a big key on. Now, a lot of the guys that won the tournaments have either they know the lake, like one of the last tournaments. Actually, I want to say it's the second to the last one I did. The guy that won that one, he knows the lake. He's fished it for 20 years. He literally he doesn't need a waypoint or nothing, but he'll go out there and just drop. And he does have forward-facing sonar. Now the guy that won the last one, he had just recently got forward-facing sonar and came back and brought like this 5-pound bass that he just he ended up putting it underneath actually he didn't put it underneath it, but he was facing towards a bridge. And he said he literally just all he did was just watch that and then saw the fish he wanted and tossed right out there. And he just he barely jigged, just inhaled it. And I was just like, dang gum.
Yeah, dude. It's crazy. I mean, I'm getting it. I mean, I'm waiting for it to come back in stock right now. I'm going to. And the reason for it is because I want to play with it. I want to experiment with it. I've seen what it can do for Ben. Me and Ben have made some awesome content. Ben's made awesome content by himself using that technology. But, I mean, dude, it's the same kind of deal. Like, I know guys who are good fishermen. Like, they're really good. They know the lakes. But the thing is they're going to the stuff that they know, and they're using that forward-facing sonar to just absolutely demolish everybody else. And in one great example of this was an Alabama rig deal where this guy finds the brush piles, idles over the brush piles, and then goes back, turns that forward-facing sonar onto those brush piles, and he can just see the dots sitting around the brush pile. Takes that Alabama rig, whizzes it out there, sinks it down, and watches it come all the way back to the boat. And he just watches them raise out of that brush pile, grab it, sets the hook, 4-pounder. Ends up putting together like a 23.5-pound bag, literally just watching them eat that bait. And so, for me, man, I know enough good stuff around here that I know that there's fish there, but I've never been able to get them to eat because I can't see them. And so, like, I just wonder, man, even for me, if it's going to just totally – I'm almost worried. Like, I'm a little apprehensive because I don't want to be that guy out there in the middle of the lake doing this number, like, all over the place. But, like, all at the same time, I know there's going to be a few of those days where I'm out there just doing this out in the middle of the lake trying to catch them. So it's very very interesting, to say the least.
Well, since you asked that question, I want to segue to that. Do you think forward-facing sonar is going to maybe take a lot of the experience and skill away? Because, I mean, just as you said it, I mean, it is a very unbelievably helpful tool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And do you think it's going to affect, like, the overall skill, and the talent, I guess you would say?
No, because I can promise you this much. As awesome as of a tool as it is, watching those guys fish today, they had to know what those fish were supposed to be doing. They had to know how to read the map. They had to know how to work that bait to get those fish to react. My buddy Ben's a great example of this. Ben has put in thousands, if not tens of thousands of hours idling and dropping waypoints on stuff. But he has to know what to look for to be able to put those fish in the boat. You know what I mean? You got to know where they live. I mean, you can have all the sonar and pinging and electronics that you want to, but if you don't know the basics of how fish set up on a piece of structure, then that forward-facing sonar is useless to you. The forward-facing, so the tool is only as good as the user. You know what I mean? And I don't think it'll ever take the skill away from you. It's just like any laboring job, right? Like you can hang sheetrock, but if you don't hang sheetrock right, you're not going to have a job very long. There's a skill to hanging sheetrock. As simple as it is, there's still a skill level to it. And so it's the tool is only as good as the user that knows how to use it.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Got one question here, and honestly, it'll be more towards you and Marshall because I don't own a boat. So the best tips you can give someone taking a boat out for the first time.
Marshall, let it rip, buddy. I want to hear yours, and then I'll add some in.
Yeah, it seems like we get this question every time, but I guess it's a good question because I guess a lot of people are newly getting into boats this spring. But I guess if it's your first time fishing that body of water, probably just go to around the points. I mean, I guess it depends on what type of electronics you have, but probably check your points, try to find you some usually you can buy a local map of like the lake and see where all the structure is. I know like Altoona, they can even give you a map of like where the sunken balls of structure are that the county actually provides. So like get you a good GPS fish finder, go around to the points, find the structure. I don't know. It's really not too much different. I mean, to me anyways, I don't know. Alex might have a little bit different perspective on it. So
for me, I'm going to kind of play to the tune of like things to do to get ready to get the boat on the water, right?
Okay.
Because I remember the first time I ever took a boat out like by myself. It's a nerve-wracking experience, right? You're like, you don't want to break nothing. You've done it 1,002 times, and you don't want to break anything, right? For me, create a system for yourself. Like first time you take that boat out, start to put a system in your mind of what the things that you've got to do to get that boat ready. So for me, it's unhook the front, go around to the back, unhook my back straps. Then I open the lid. Literally, it's the same thing every time. Unhook the front, unhook the straps on the back, open up the back of my boat, turn on all my power switches that I need to turn on, close that back, trim my motor up, get my motor towed off, get my motor clips off, put those into the truck, turn my front graph on, turn my Ultrex on, my trolling motor on, and then I start to back that boat into the water. And so there's like a system every single time, repetitively do the system. And like the first time you take a boat out, go through your checklist, go back through your checklist, and go back through your checklist one more time, because that's how you're going to avoid costing yourself a bunch of money by, forgetting to do something. Put your plug in your boat. I mean, like, people, I've had a plug come out of a boat. Don't forget your plug. Make sure, literally, Yeah, triple check. I mean, I literally walk by and I go, yep, it's there. I walk back by and I go, yep, it's still there. And I walk by one more time, I'm like, yep, it's still there. And you just got to kind of create a system for yourself. I think that's the biggest piece of advice I can give you. And don't get in a hurry. I don't care if everybody at the boat ramp is pissed off at you because you're not moving at their pace. You move at the pace that you need to move to make sure your investment is taken care of. I don't give a crap about everybody else's investment. What you spend on your boat and taking care of your boat is the most important thing. Take your time and just do what you need to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
one thing I'll add on there, just like boat etiquette myself, like I'll pull over to the side, get all my seats, my batteries, my plug. I get everything ready, just me, like off to the side. Then when I back up to the ramp, like
you're ready.
I'm just backing up, shooting it off.
Yeah.
You know, there's some people, they'll park on the ramp and they're pulling batteries out of their truck. They're pulling the Garmin's out of the truck. They're pulling the rods and putting it on the boat. And I'm like, now's not the time to do it.
Yeah, that should have been done a long time ago. You know what I mean? So.
Oh, yeah. Well, talking about the boat, that actually got me wanting to ask a question. You actually mentioned this in a recent video. You have Gene Jensen's old boat.
I do.
Man, I when you said that, I ain't gonna lie. I kind of like looked at it sideways and I'm like, holy crap, he does.
Yeah, that's the boat.
How did you get? I mean, did you go through Gene? Did you go through like? I mean, how did you come across the Fluke Masters boat?
So I was actually fishing with Gene up in Michigan, and Gene said, "Hey, I got to sell my boat coming at the end of the year." And I said, "All right, well, let me know when it's up for sale because I want it." Because I was looking for a boat at that time. I was kind of trying to figure out what I was going to do. And so boat comes up for sale. I had to talk and deal directly with Alumacraft. So I bought it directly from them, and they offered me a ridiculous deal on it. And I was like, all right, I can't pass this up. And so I bought it. Now, I will be totally honest with you. Gene was rough on that boat, to say the least. And so I've had to do a little bit of patching back together and rewiring, and I had to put new seats in it and all that kind of stuff, which Alumacraft has been nice enough to help me out with giving me new seats. But all the rest of the rewiring and new batteries and just a bunch of little knickknacks and paddywhacks and $50 and $60 and $100 here and $100 there. I've got her back to fighting shape now. So.
Oh man, no, it's so funny because you talked about how you like to use. I think you spoke about this either with Bradley or it was another stream where you're talking about how you prefer to have an aluminum boat, like because you like to be able to push up into those areas that someone's not going to take a fiberglass boat. And I couldn't agree with you more because one of my partners I fish with down here, his name's Don. He has an aluminum boat, but we also fish with a local pro. His name's Michael Taylor. He's got a Skeeter boat. I cannot remember the model number. All I know is it's just a very nice boat. And it was so funny. He was telling us how he realized how fast the boat was going when he realized there was no wake, and then he looked down. You just happened to look down, and the boat was up out of the water. I'm like, holy crap, Michael!
Yeah.
But I'm kind of with you on that. If I get a boat, if I have the option, and Lord sees fit to send me a boat, I'm praying that it will be an aluminum craft boat or our aluminum boat because I want to be able to go up into those back areas just like you do. Because I like fishing open fine, but I've always found like a lot of the monsters are going to be hiding in those back channels.
Yeah. For me, it's just my fishing style. You know what I mean? Like there's people whose styles is offshore fishing. You know what I mean? And my buddy Ben's a great example. He's got to have a big boat because he fishes the Great Lakes. If I tried to take my boat out there, I'd beat myself to death. It would be literally dangerous on some days for me to have my boat out there. So Ben's got to have a glass boat. But man, just my style, where I live, how I like to fish, it fits right into my style. And it's I got that jack plate on there. I can idle in inches of water. I can get up there. I can push pole. I mean, heck, I've got out of my boat and pushed before. I've been so shallow just to get into an area where fish live. And so it's just my style, you know what I mean? And so John Cox is the man, great example of somebody that's their style as well. And what's cool about John Cox's boat is it's kind of that perfect in between of being able to run in the big water, run long distances, and do big water stuff. But all at the same time, he can go, squirreling back into a creek somewhere. And so, yeah, man, I love my aluminum boat. And if I ever buy another boat, it'll be an aluminum boat. So,
yeah. It's funny because I went striper fishing this past weekend, and I couldn't help but recall one of your videos. And if I cannot remember the weight, all I know is it was a flipping monster, dude. And you brought, it was like a 26, a 30-pound striper. I think it was more than that. I can't remember, but it just I can't remember what exactly were you fishing with those stripers, because it's the first time I've actually been striper fishing. I'm normally like a pond hopper. So the lakes are like a new front, or just a new, whole new frontier for me. And that I'm learning. So could you please educate some of us new striper fishermen on what you feel is the best bait to get them to bite and really one of those huge monsters?
Okay, so I'm going to caveat all this by saying I don't know anything about striper fishing. I will say this though: when they come up blowing up on bait fish in the middle of the summer, I got a spook in my hand and I'm humming it over and I'm working it as hard as I can. I mean, it's just, dude, it's one of those things. Like, I know where they live and I can go catch a few. I'll go throw the big glide baits for them and stuff like that in the summer, like the dead of summer. It's really fun to go do that. But man, that day I honestly just lucked into them. The current was right. It would stay cloudy and it had been raining. And so there was a lot of current coming down the river, and it had pushed a big ball of gizzard shad up onto this point. And there was probably, honest to God, 100 stripers up there. And they were just killing anything that moved. And so I pulled out a big old 6-inch walking bait. It was a Lucky Craft. It's the biggest Lucky Craft they make. And I just started humming that thing over there, man. And within the first 3 casts, just poof, and it was on. And I ended up catching, I think, 6 or 7 striper that day. The biggest one was like probably 28, 29 pounds. And I caught like 4 or 5 that were all that size. And just, dude, it's one of those, it's a special day. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things that doesn't happen often, but when it does, you just need to have a spook in your hand and go to work on them. So, yeah,
definitely. Marshall, you want to touch in on striper fishing? Because, I mean, I know that you and Dana, FCP from Lake Lanier, have talked about it on the streams before, but we've never really went into too much detail about it.
I don't know too much about it, but I know everybody and their mama at Lanier basically is throwing out a little trout, like 5-6-inch trout, dragging them around or trolling with Alabama rigs. That's about as much as I know about it myself.
Yeah. Well, we went to Sinclair, and I had never been before, but they just said, well, technically all you need is like a small lipless. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then we get there, and that's not what they're using at all. They're like, oh, yeah, you need these blades. And I'm like, I was looking at it, I was like, man, why didn't y'all tell me? I could get that. And they go, well, you can't get it right now. It's, it's on the same level as the jackhammer fire crawl. Yeah. Last year, didn't they like sell for like $500 on eBay when?
Oh, dude, yeah, that was so silly. Like, there was guys, I actually got my hands on a few, and like I had people offering me $50 and $60 a piece for them because they wanted them so bad, and I was like, listen, they'll come back in stock eventually, and next spring they'll catch them just like they did this spring. And no, I'm not going to sell my jackhammer because my 4-pound smallmouth I caught on it is much better than $50. So,
no kidding. But yeah, that was a new one to me. So, but yeah, just like I said, Marshall's talked about it more, and I've seen you catch stripers. But that was something more for me because I'm praying that we'll go back out sometime in the next coming up weeks and be able to go. Yeah. All right, so I know you've talked about it, but I want to touch back on it. When you broke your leg. I know. I'm sorry. I know I'm just glutton for punishment.
No fun.
Yeah, no fun at all, dude. Man, that killed me. Because y'all right. Where exactly were y'all? Because I can't remember off the top of my head. Where y'all were out deep sea?
Yeah, so we had launched out of Carolina Beach. My buddy Judd, he is a guide in North Carolina. He does redfish, speckled trout, the whole nine. Well, he had a buddy who had a big boat that's just a guy with a lot of money who likes to have fun. And so he has this big 40-foot, deep sea fishing boat. So we get on the boat with him. We were planning on running like 25 miles out and ended up having to stop because of how bad the waves were. So we ended up getting like probably 18, 19 miles out and ended up fishing, catching some king mackerel, all that jazz. And we were actually making our way back in, and we were going from one spot to another. And we hit a big wave. And what you got to realize about those boats is like when they hit waves, the boat doesn't go up and like over the wave. It goes up and it drops off the backside of the wave because of how big the boats are. And so, you know, like in a bass boat, you go woo, and you kind of get some air and then you go down. These things, man, you just go up and they just slam right back down. So what happened was we went over the backside of a wave and the boat dropped from under me. And, you know, like there's nothing I could do. So you got to imagine this boat, 40 foot long. It's got a giant center console, dual seats. And then behind this console, there's like a big platform where you can put baits and all this stuff. So I'm standing there holding on to a rail and behind this platform. And when the boat drops, there's a bunch of hooks sitting on this little platform and they rose up into my face. Well, when that happens, when hooks are coming towards your eyes and your face, natural reaction, you go like this. And so I let go and I caught a hook through my finger, which actually stuck into this other finger and stuck these two fingers together. And I didn't realize it, and I ripped them apart out of just like pure panic trying to get the hook out of my finger. And I landed, and when I landed, my ankle rolled in, and I heard it pop. I just didn't think that it was broke because I think the hook in my finger kind of distracted me from my ankle. And so like my buddy's like, is the ankle okay? Ankle okay? I'm like, yeah, man, it's good. I'm like rolling it around and moving it, like don't even feel it. I was like, let's just get this hook out of my finger. I'm all good. Well, by the time we get the hook out of my finger and I get up and try to move, my ankle is about the size of a softball. And I was like, it was at that moment I was like, okay, I've screwed up, and ended up breaking my fibula, which is the bone that connects your ankle to your foot. And so I broke it right at the ankle bone. And it was actually honestly a freak thing because what happened was when it broke, the doctor said after the fact he could see it like in the x-rays of what happened. So you got to imagine your ankle bone, like where it connects and your fibula connects, it kind of connects like this. Well, he said when I rolled my ankle, my bone actually broke and slid down and cut a bunch of nerves and tendons in my foot and then slid right back into place. So my bone broke and then reset itself. And so that's what saved me from actually having to have a plate and screws in my leg. And so I looked out. It sucked. I mean, it sucked because I was down from November, you know, the end of November to just like 2-3 weeks ago. Yeah. But it saved me from having more metal in my body because I've already got a screw in my left foot, so I didn't want any more metal in my right foot.
Well, no, because I went back and watched it several times. I had to because of the roasting. But you know, I'm glad you kind of described like how you felt, because to me, you know, from the point of view from your chest camera, it just looked like you were standing there and then you just fell.
Just gone. Yeah, dude.
I was like, dang on, dude, stand much.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it was so fast. That was the thing. I mean, this boat, that's the crazy thing about this boat, too. This boat this boy had, I mean, it will go 65 miles an hour. It's 40 foot long, but it's got quad 300s on the back.
Oh, I know. I love the
boat will haul. Yeah, it's crazy, dude. I'm trying to remember what they're called. Apparently they're like really rare and you can't get your hands on them. But like, so we're going like 45. And so when you hit a 10-foot wave at a 40-foot boat going 45 miles an hour, I mean, dude, it like happens so fast. There's nothing I could do about it. Like I'm up and then just I'm down. And I was like, you know, hooking my finger. I'm looking, I'm dazed and confused. Like what's going on? Like, dude, it was rough. It was rough. And then the trip back was rough because I had to ride in the car 8 hours with my foot up on the dash with nothing on it to get back home, to get to the orthopedic clinic, to get it x-rayed just for them to tell me that it was broke. So,
dude, no, just like I say, you breaking it down. Like I've rolled my ankles so many times. I don't know how I haven't broken them.
Yeah.
But just to sit there and hear you describe it, my ankles are killing me right now. I'm just like, oh man, please just stop. Just stop. It hurts just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Oh man. My wife actually had a question, and this is kind of aimed at me, but I guess she wants to get your opinion on it since you are a teacher. What is the best starter fish or the best starter I guess fish to teach a 5-year-old? I guess she's thinking like what fish, you know, what species of fish should a 5-year-old start out on? Because we have a 5-year-old. He's his name's CJ. He's autistic, and I'll be taking him fishing officially this year because he finally came out and said that he wants to go fishing. So Mr. Rudd, will you please educate us and tell us what you would recommend? And then, of course, Mr. Marshall, because he also has 2 kids. And I would love to get both of y'all's opinion on that one.
Bluegills, man. There is nothing funner than a bucket of crickets or a bucket of minnows and some bobbers and some bluegills, man. My earliest memories of fishing were catching wild frogs with my dad, hooking them and throwing them out there and catching bluegill, as big as my hand. Yeah. And like that's what gets you hooked, right? I mean, that's what that. I tell people all the time, if bluegills were bigger and had a little bit bigger mouth, that's all we'd fish for because they are the funnest fish in the world to catch.
They are.
Pound for pound, they are the hardest fighting fish.
Oh, they're awesome, man. They're
awesome. They really are. Oh,
and you can eat them. I love anything you can eat. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. No, we actually have. I'm lucky enough that we actually have quite a few places that we can go for bluegill. But a friend of mine who's actually supposed to be taking me and Marshall out on deep sea fish, supposedly in April, where it's out in Mexico Beach. We're going to go out and try this amberjacks. He's got a pond behind his house, and he's got bluegill that are like bigger than my hand, which I was just like floored. Like, dude, how the heck do you have fish in there that flipping big? And he's like, man, he said we keep catching them year and year, and they stay this big. And I'm just, man, I can't wait. But you're right, bluegill is definitely going to be like probably where I take him first.
So I got a question for y'all. Have you ever seen the Lake Havasu bluegill, the ones that get like 4 and 5 pounds?
No, I've not seen this.
When we get off live stream, just go to Google or go to YouTube and type in Lake Havasu bluegill. Dude, I gotta go do it. The mugs are like world record size. Like I think the biggest one they ever caught out there was like 4.5 pounds, almost 5 pounds. Like it's as big as a largemouth. And they're like there's some freak strain of bluegill, dude. You gotta go check it out. It's awesome.
I wonder what they taste like. I mean, I know a lot of people sit there, love catfish, but you ain't go eat one of the monster catfish that weigh like 60 pounds because you're like, no, that's gonna taste like dirt.
Yeah.
So what about what do you think those 4 pound bluegill are gonna taste like?
I think we go catch one and eat it and find out. Because let me tell you something. I'm a full-blown hillbilly, all right? Like, so every time I have a conversation with anything about anybody with about any animal alive, I'm like, well, can we hunt it? Can we kill it? And can we eat it? And they're like, well, I don't know if it tastes good. I was like, I didn't say would it taste good. I just want to know, can we eat it to find out? You know what I mean? So,
anytime you want to do a 4 pound bluegill catch and cook video,
I'm down.
Hit us up. Yeah, we'll
in Arizona at that, like Lake Havasu, Arizona. So that's the party. Like we'll have to go out there in the middle of the summer when the parties are going on, and like party with some people and catch some 4 pound bluegill. You know what I mean?
Dude, man. Honestly, I already got a bunch of trips planned, so it's just another one to add. So
there you go. There you go.
Do it. Going back talking about the classic. You and I have actually talked about it. Marshall and I have talked about it. Are you planning on flying out there this year? Because Marshall and Larry are, and I'm actually planning on doing it too.
Maybe. I got to kind of see how the schedule works out. I'm planning on going to my buddy Ben's. It's an annual trip. I never miss it, and it's actually going to be the same week as the Classic.
That's right. No, I remember that.
Yeah. So I'll be honest with you, man. Like I would much rather go to Michigan in the first week of June and catch big smallmouth and big largemouth as to go to the Classic. I've done the Classic. They're awesome. The trade show is awesome. Getting to meet all those guys is awesome. But, I've done it a couple times. I've been to ICAST. I've done that. But I've not caught every fish in Michigan. So I got to go catch some more fish in Michigan.
I don't blame you. I totally remember that was something you told me about because you had – and for everyone that's watching, I don't know. Have you selected your videographer yet?
I have. I was talking to a buddy of mine that actually lives up there. It's a guy that I've known for a lot of years, and he has a YouTube channel. And he's a buddy of mine named Jay, and he makes maple syrup is what he does. And he makes maple syrup and fishing videos. And so we're going to get Jay to jump in the boat with us, and he's going to be my videographer. And, and I told him, man, I said, I'm not looking for anything, You know, I'm not trying to be Steven Spielberg. I just want somebody to hold the camera and catch all of those things that is hard for me to catch because I can't have the camera in my hand all the time.
Yeah.
And so I'm really, really looking forward to it, man. I think it's this year and this set of Michigan videos is going to be like nothing that I've ever done before. And I think it's really going to do a good job of capturing what makes that trip so special for me. And that's just like hanging out with my buddy Ben, the camaraderie, the getting to experience all these cool places. And it's really hard to capture that on camera without actually being there with me. And so hopefully this camera, this third person is going to be like you guys are there with me.
Oh man, no, that's great. I can't wait to see that trip. I'm stoked about it. Okay, my wife, we were talking about tasting. She had to come in. My wife loves to cook. Like, let's soak it in heavy cream and we get the money taste out. Or she's like maple syrup. Big man. That's so fun. Someone, Sunfisher's asked and said the big sunfish tastes bad comparatively, but I can only say the 2-pounders or 2-pounders a couple different times. Okay, so he's only had those for a few different times.
Oh, let me pull up. Y'all keep going. I'm gonna pull a picture of these bluegill, dude. I can't get over them. Like they're ridiculous. Lake Havasu bluegill. They are like it's like look at this thing. Look at that.
What the? Holy crap!
Like,
Looks like a freaking piranha.
Look at that. And like that's real. Like the first time I ever saw it, I thought that is like Photoshop, but they're real. And I mean, dude, they're just.
You bring those things out here, throw them in there, and watch those bass freak out.
I mean, like, dude, if I was a bass, I'd swim the other direction. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, man, I want to. Oh, that's so cool.
So let me see. This guy broke the world record, 17 inches long and 5.78 pounds. That's huge.
Oh, that's a monster.
Dude, could you imagine? Imagine catching a 17.5-inch largemouth that weighed 5.5 pounds, dude. You would be like, "This is awesome." You'd want to take a picture with it. But a freaking bluegill,
man. Like I said, dude, that's nuts. How big those bluegill get? Oh my lord,
crazy, man. And someone said shell crackers. Yeah, listen. Again, I'm a hillbilly. We're from the South. If it is about that big and it swims around, I can catch it with crickets. It's a bluegill. There's green-eared sunfish and red-eared sunfish and pumpkin seeds and all that stuff.
Red breasts.
Yeah. Which generally a bluegill is what we call everything.
It's just a bluegill. It's just a brim or bluegill.
Yeah, in Georgia, we just call everything a brim. Like
a brim. It's a brim, yeah. Or like a chain, down here where I'm at, like I don't know where it is, chain pickerel we call jacks.
Really?
I mean, that's how I've been raised. Down on my family farm, I actually grew up on. It's connected to I can't even remember the name of the river, but it's called Limestone Creek, and it runs behind what was my grandparents' farm, and I fished out there, man. I would catch bass, bluegill, brim, and the jacks or chain pickerels. I mean, I have a picture of one. I ain't putting it up because I don't want to show off that hair because I'm bald down. I like that, but I got one of those jacks out there is at least 2.5, almost approaching like probably 2. It's long. It's at least over 2 feet long.
Yeah, and
those are like some of the most fun fighting fish, but they are just so flipping mean.
Oh, dude, yeah. Pike and pickerel and all of them. First time I ever caught a pike was up north. And I brought it into the boat, and I looked at my buddy Ben. I said, "You're unhooking it. I'm not touching it." And he was like, "Why?" I was like, I don't mess with stuff with teeth. And I was like, I've done the muskies. It cut me to the bone. I was like, you can unhook that thing. Well, he grabs a hold of it, unhooks it, throws it in the water. I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll unhook the next one. That wasn't that bad.
All right. My wife actually keeps wanting to throw in here. She lived in Alaska. So have y'all, she says, so have y'all ever gone to Alaska, and do y'all have a bucket list of places you want to fish?
So y'all go first because mine's pretty unique. And every time somebody asks me this, I have to explain it to them. But y'all go first. Tell me y'all's bucket list places to fish.
Marshall, you go ahead because
I'm going to have to be Jeremy Wade over here in the Amazon, probably fishing the Amazon River, There's just so many crazy fish out there. You never know what you're going to get. That's probably mine.
That's awesome.
I got quite a few. Alaska is definitely one of them. Alaska, I guess you would say if I have one that if was possible now, I would say I want to go fish the king salmon spawn. Because you ever see the show? It's called Monster Fish.
Yeah.
Or I think it was Monster Fish, but it's they were showing these people hooking up on king salmon, and they just snap the rods. Like they just sit there, and all of a sudden the rods just snap. Everybody's like getting mad, and all I can sit there and go is challenge accepted. I want to go fish that so bad now. Yeah. Like that's how I am when I sit there and see like a monster or see a rod snap. Some people are like, I don't want to do with it. I'm just like, idiot. I get me there. I want to do it now. Like, and it's like almost like I get itchy talking about it. Like I gotta go. I gotta go. And that's something. I guess you said that's kind of a big trip that I'm saving up for. I'm hoping. I don't think I'll get to do it this year, but I'm praying that I'll get to do it soon. But I'm also like Marshall going down fishing the Amazon, but I really would love to go fish Asia because they have got just some of the most monster catfish out there that they said that there's catfish out there that have attacked humans, which some people would be like, why would you want to go fish that? And I'm like, why would you not? Like, seriously, like I feel like you're a moron for not wanting to go. So I mean, that's how I am because I'm just like I say, it's and I guess you would say if another fish I would love to go catch is going to be a giant carp. Those carp out there are just unbelievably huge, and it's so like it's almost like a different culture. Like we're into bass fishing, we're into like I guess you would say the predatory side of fishing. Mm-hmm. These people carp fishing, it's like people travel literally all over the world to go to Asia or to go to Thailand to just go fish for these giant carp. Like people like fly from Great Britain, the Amazon, and I'm just like, you know what? I want to go experience that because it is just a completely different culture. I mean, like these carp are actually like so loved, like even when some of them die because of how old they are, they hold funerals for them.
Yeah.
Which I'm wild. And a lot of people would be like, really? I'm like, dude, I mean, I'm not sitting here saying I'm going to pull out the tissues, except for the fact I didn't catch it. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's how I am.
That's cool. I mean, that's, man, I feel sadness when a big fish dies. Like I've killed some big fish in my day on accident. There's just certain times there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah. You'll put a 4-pounder in the boat and just the stress of that kills them. And I mean, man, I've spent an hour with a fish trying to get it to swim away, and just finally have to accept the fact that it's dead. And I mean, it's not, again, you're not going to break up the tissues, but I tell people it's like killing a big deer. You know what I mean? Like it's not that you feel sadness, but it's just more respect for that animal. You know what I mean? It's like respect that thing survived from something that big to be able to grow probably older than massive. I am to get to 4 or 5 pounds. I mean, like a lot of people, and it's kind of the culture around tournament bass fishing, the culture around bass fishing that just kind of sucks that I don't like. And it's another thing I like about kayak fishing. And then we'll get back to the, dreamless place. But like I cherish a 15 to 16 inch fish in a kayak because that's a good tournament fish.
Yes.
And most people would look at that and they would say, man, it's like a 2-pounder and toss it back. But like if you really think about how much that fish survived from this big to 2 pounds, the respect level goes boop, 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 boop. And like when I put my hands on a 586 smallmouth in the middle of the Great Lakes, that fish most likely is older than I am. I mean, it's probably 30, 35 years old. And I mean, like, it makes you it's an immense amount of reverence for the fact that fish in the middle of one of the biggest lakes in the world was able to survive from that big to 586 and 19 inches long. And so like that's cool. I mean, it's cool that there's people out there that have that much respect for those fish that they're having funerals for them. Now, I mean, is that something that we'd ever do in America? Probably not. But like I get that reverence for the fact that those fish are that big, they're that old, and that they were able to survive in the wild for that long and not get picked off by something. You know what I mean?
Tom Haynes, he's out in Cali. We didn't like him very much last week when he, it was freezing down here, and he was like, "Oh, well, it's 68 out here." Doing that. He said he hooked a 39-pound carp about 12 years ago and let it go. Man, that thing's probably, if it ain't dead yet, that thing's got to be just massive.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
That's so awesome.
So my dream lake, or my dream place to fish. I want to go golden Dorado fishing in Patagonia. So Patagonia, South America, golden Dorado, man. If anybody's never seen one, just Google golden Dorado fishing. It is like a salmon had a baby with a bull shark, and they injected it with pissed off, and like dude, just absolutely ridiculous. They'll get 25, 30 pounds, and they'll eat, the big 200 size whopper ploppers as fast as you can reel them in the current below these dams that they have up there that generate power. And I mean, like, woo! That gets me going, dude. Like that's awesome to me. That's my bucket list one. That's one. If I can ever make it happen, I want to go make it happen. And then as far as like bass fishing, I want to go do Lake Bullard's Bard in California and catch those giant spots. I think that would be fun. I want to go catch a 10-pound spot. So,
yeah. No, it's so funny you mentioned that. I got a question. What would you prefer? First, a fighting fish. What would you prefer, the largemouth or a spot?
Man, I love them all. I mean, like, it's just a completely different experience, right? Like, I love largemouth because of what largemouth do. They again, fits into my fishing style. They like to be shallow. They like to eat frogs. They like to eat a flipping bait. Like, you know what I mean? Smallmouth are the same way. I like to river fish. They live in those rivers. They want to eat things that I like to throw. Spots, though, are just a complete, like, there's a couple spot lakes around me that literally the spots have taken over the lakes, kind of like Lanier and Smith. You know what I mean? These spots got in there and they essentially outcompeted everything else. Yeah. And like, dude, like, they're insane. They're the dang on thing. Like, I never get in a spot fishing tournament in a kayak because you'll never get a picture of any of the fish. Like, they lose their ever-loving mind as soon as you hook them or try to touch them. And like, that's what's so fun about them, man, is you'll have a 2-3 pound spot that'll try to eat a 6-7 inch swim bait. And like, they'll eat super spooks as fast as you can work them. I mean, like, you're not even walking them. It's just check, 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 check. I mean, they're just toom. It's just so much fun. So I like them all for different reasons. But if I had to pick one or the other, honestly, it's going to be a largemouth because it's exactly how I like to fish. They do what I like to do. So,
yeah. The reason why I asked that is there's a Bassmaster Elite Pro, and his name is just slipping. Like, I'm getting old. I'm forgetting his name. But he literally, I kid you not, kind of came out and was talking about how all these reservoirs need to be drained and need to be refilled with just spots because of how much of a fighting fish they are. And part of me is just like, are you an idiot? But I mean, he even tried to win the 15 Classic just by catching nothing but spots. I mean, he was pulling in like these giant spots. And I've never caught a spot, which, like I said, I'm down here, I got, mudfish, alligators, and bears, so that's what I got. So I haven't had a chance to come up, because, even though Marshall lives about 2 hours from me, he's still in a section that, I guess you would say our terrain is different. So he actually has access to fish. I don't. Yeah. So, and of course, you have your smallies up there, which, like I say, man, every time I see you catch a smallie, I'm just sitting there biting my thumbnail. Like, I got to get up there. I got to go fish. Because honestly, like, when you talk about Nicky Jack, and that is so funny. That's actually a bucket list lake of mine. I've driven over it with my day job for years. I think it's just probably one of the most beautiful lakes I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And I'm dying to go out there and just fish that, just for the fact that it's just a beautiful fishery from what I've seen.
Yeah, Nicky Jack is a cool place, man. It's interesting because, like, a lot of people forget about it because you've got Chickamauga on one side and Gunnersville on the other, and so everybody just kind of forgets about that little lake in between. And the thing about Nicky Jack is it's just essentially a river channel with a couple pockets off of it, but it's got absolutely magnum fish in it. I know guys that go and catch 25, 26, 27, 30-pound bags down there just like they do in Chickamauga, and it's just, but there's like nobody that really focuses on it. So it's a really cool lake. Uh-oh. Got a little bit of a jawing up here.
Yeah, I've heard Pickwick's pretty good like that too. You can catch largemouth, monster, smallmouth.
Pickwick is silly. Okay, like Pickwick, probably out of the list of Tennessee River lakes. If they said Alex pick one, it's gonna be Pickwick. Pickwick is. Last time I was there, I ended up catching 23, 24 pound bag in our best 5, a couple 6.5s, and we ended up on one spot where we just sat for an hour and threw a big ribbon tail worm and just caught them over and over and over and over. I mean, just silly. So I want to actually talk about a comment over here. Wait till Fitz gets back and we can keep on going. So he said, Sunfish Assassin said the bass typically live about 15, 16 years. And you're right, for the most part, when you're talking about the typical lifespan of a bass. And when I start talking about these fish that are in that older range, and especially smallmouth up north, I actually talked to several biologists that were telling me that they were, dating these fish, right? That they were finding dead fish. And the fish actually have what they call an ear bone, which actually isn't part of their ear, but it's a bone, and you can actually count the rings on that bone to figure out how old the fish is, just like you would count rings on a tree. And they were talking about these Great Lake smallmouth, just where their metabolism is so much slower than your average fish that lives in warmer water, that these fish, when they were hitting that 4 to 5 to 6 pound class range of fish, that 18 to 19 inches long, that most of those fish were anywhere from 25 to 30 years old. And even some of them that they were finding were 35, 36 years old, just because their metabolism is so much slower due to the fact that they live in colder water. And it was just fascinating. Whereas, like, you look at a fish that lives in Florida, their lifespan and their ability to grow is extended so much because their photo period is extended so much, the amount of sunlight that they get. Yeah. And so, like, a 10-pound fish down there can get 10 pounds in like 11 years, where a 10-pound fish in Michigan could take 20, 30 years to get that big. And honestly would probably never even make it there anyway without some kind of, predation and or, weather affect them in a way, lake freezes a certain way or something happens that they die. But no, just thought I would point that out. Very interesting. Something I learned, I was catching these 5-pound smallmouth, not thinking about how old they actually were until I talked to that biologist, and he kind of explained that fact to me. And I was like, man, that's nuts to think that there's fish swimming around in the Great Lakes that are older than I am. You know what I mean? That's crazy.
Yeah, that is nuts. All right, now I got to point this out because I'm fairly certain this is the guy I work with who's trying to remind me not to be late for work tonight. Sorry. If this is who I think it is, I won't. Sorry.
Don't be late, son. Don't be late.
Yeah, no kidding. Hold on one second. This is another something I saw out there. What is that? Okay, now remember we were talking about jacks. He said he caught a jack about 28 inches long last year in Southeast Georgia. They're good eating. I've never eaten them. They are an unbelievably bony fish, but I had a gentleman that lived next to my granddaddy for 60 years. And every time I caught a jack, he would want to eat them. So, I've heard like snakeheads are good eating. I've heard, but I'm like, part of me is just like, I don't think I'd want to eat that fish. I don't know why, but I've heard they're really good eating.
I've heard of people taking them and making like a ball out of them, like almost like a patty, like a salmon patty or something like that. I heard of people taking gar and doing the same thing, making gar balls, and where they'll take the meat of a gar and like ball it up and fry it and just. I mean, man, listen, if I'm hungry, I'll eat anything. But if I have my choice, I'm going to get some white meat fish and eat me some white meat fish. So
anyway, I got one more question, and because we are running a little long on the tooth, and I do got to actually give me a little bit of a nap in because I got to leave for work in a few hours. But you had mentioned something in your tournament video, and it's something I've honestly been wanting to talk about in my streams, but it just never seems to come up. And now, because I phoned up and watched your tournament video again today, you were talking about how a Ned rig, is best to use that doesn't pressure fish. Mm-hmm. What do you feel is probably the one bait that will pressure fish the most?
Anything that's going to has any kind of water displacement or disturbance, right? So when fish don't want to eat, you got to trick them into eating, or you got to get them to react to get them to eat. And I think there's a definite defining line of when you should do one or the other. And I think you got to look at a whole myriad of different water conditions, air conditions, weather conditions to figure out which one of those are going to be. You know what I mean? So there's cold and windy, and wind and current makes fish position. And so you can get those fish to react, I feel like, a lot better than you can get fish to react on the day like I was fishing, where it's high bluebird skies, there's not much current, and they don't really have to position on anything. And so what I was trying to do more is trick that fish into just taking the opportunity to eat the meal that was presented to them rather than get them to react. And so I wanted something as passive as I could possibly throw, which was a Ned rig. I mean, it's do nothing. I mean, if you really think about a Ned rig, you just drag it and it drags across the bottom. There ain't nothing flapping. There's nothing rattling. There's nothing popping, cracking, blinging, nothing. You know what I mean? But like if it was like you noticed early in the morning, and I talked about it in my video, that first fish that I caught, wind was blowing into that point. The surface was broken up by the wind. There was current pushing into that point. That fish was positioned, and so I was throwing that more reactionary style of bait in that flat side crankbait and got that fish to eat. And even then, that flat side isn't super intrusive if you think about it. No rattles, flat sides, top wobble, very, very small. You know, that's only like a 2 3/4 inch bait, you know, and I'm just slow rolling it on that point. And so I think you got to kind of look at the different factors to figure out which one of those you want to use in whatever situation. But any bait that's going to be loud, intrusive, disturb a lot of water, I feel like will put more pressure on fish in certain situations and they won't eat it. They'll just kind of, I don't think that they swim away from it or are scared of it, but they just kind of watch it go by. Like, I just don't even want to expend that much energy. Whereas if a little Ned rig hops in front of their face, they're just like, they don't have to move. They don't have to do anything. They suck that thing in and you got them. So that's kind of my viewpoint on that.
Yeah, definitely. So what about you, Marshall? Like, what do you feel like would pressure the fish the most, at least in your areas?
I pretty much agree with what Alex said, but mainly from what I've found, fish are pretty smart and they remember what you catch them on. Like I used to do a lot of pond fishing, and I lived on a pond for like 10 years growing up, and there was like a 7-pounder in there that I would catch all the time. But it would never hit the same thing you caught it on last time. And I know everybody's always burning chatterbaits and spinner baits and catching all these fish. They do have a memory. It may be limited. They may forget about that 2 or 3 years down the road. I don't know. But yeah, definitely everybody loves power fishing like we do. And I think it definitely does put a toll on them in the long run, to where they keep on getting stuck by those spinner baits and power baits that eventually they're probably not going to be too aggressive. And that's when something like a Ned rig or something that's just dangling in front of their face, they're just like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna take it.
Well, I mean, it's becoming more and more evident, and it goes back to the conversation we had earlier about forward-facing sonar. I think most of the fish that people catch on forward-facing sonar are fish that have not seen people in a long, long time. They suspend out in the middle of the lake. They only go up to spawn, and they come right back out and they suspend. And so you can get them to act stupid for baits because, you're throwing small swim baits, small Ned rigs at them, just swimming. Like Ben, a lot of the big smallmouth that he catches, he swims a Ned rig. And it's just so unintrusive, so passive that they want to eat it. And I mean, more and more that I fish, guys, and this is the God honest truth, and you guys have probably heard it in my videos, the more and more I have to finesse fish, just because I think pressure and everything that's happening to these fish, their memories are getting better, and I think they're starting to pass on some adaptations to avoid certain sounds and certain things more and more to their young. And I think it's going to become more and more prevalent and harder to catch fish as the years go on.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, actually, I want to touch back on what Marshall was talking about, and what you saying, but you're talking about like baits that they haven't seen in a while. Well, I've actually learned that during, late pre-spawn, early spawn, one of the best baits I feel like, at least down here, I could throw is a frog, because they are going to forget about it because they've been sheltered down, they've been eating or chasing like these bait balls, and the frogs are like haven't really come out of hibernation yet. And if you throw a frog out there, it's almost like they're not going to sit there and think, well, this ain't the time. They're going to think, wait, I can eat that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have them go nuts on a frog like bit by about mid-March to early April. So I agree with that aspect of that. They're going to remember, but they are going to, like, I guess you would say, forget the bait they were caught on. They're just going to remember the food that they can eat. So,
well, it's it's kind of one of those things. Is there's going to be certain times a year that certain baits work, because no matter what we do to that fish, their little switch in their head, they're instinctual. They don't. I don't know if they remember, right? They can't actualize ideas and thought processes like we can. Like, they're not thinking. They're just literally purely instinctual animals. Like, they don't think, oh, I'm hooked. It's just there's an instinct in their brain that is, I have to get as far away from this danger as I possibly can. You know what I mean? It's just instinctual, right?
Or I got to kill this.
Or I got to kill this, right? Or I'm just going to sit here and not do anything because I'm going to self-preserve. Right. And even then, again, it's just instinctual. They're not having those thought processes. But like, I think there's a certain time of year that no matter what we throw, what we do, bass are going to eat because they're turned on to eat. Coming out of the winter into the spring, they're turned on to eat because their main focus is, I got to get full and then I got to go make babies. And as soon as I'm full and as soon as the sun gets how I want it and the moon gets how I want it, I can make babies. And then all they think about is making babies. And that's when you start bed fishing and you get these fish that are locked on the beds and won't eat anything. But then as soon as they're done making babies, guess what? It's time to eat again. And they eat and they eat and they eat until it gets hot enough that they either go up in a river somewhere, go up in a creek somewhere, or they go get out in 20 foot of water. And then that self-preservation of, I'm going to sit right here and just eat when I need to, kicks back in. And so I think when you look at fishing, obviously throwing something new, throwing something that is going against what everybody else is throwing can be super effective, just for the simple fact of the fish. The fish are so visual. They're such visual predators. Their entire life is driven by their eyes. So if they see something that just doesn't look like anything else they've seen, they're going to try to kill it just because they're curious. It's like a shark going after a guy on a surfboard, right? He just goes to investigate. But then I think there's other times, man, that we've got to just kind of get weird with them and do finessey things and get them to trick them more than get them to react or just show them what they need to see to eat. So it's very interesting, man. This is a rabbit hole. I've had so many conversations, with biologists, with other fishermen about this topic, because it is a rabbit hole that you can go down. I mean, it's the ultimate problem that we're all trying to solve, right? Like, how do we trick these little green fish and get them to eat? So.
Yeah. Got one more question, and we're going to have to go ahead and wrap it up. But it says, y'all prefer round bill or square bill baits? Or swim baits, excuse me. So I'm only throwing that one out there because my bud at work might get mad if I don't. So what would y'all prefer, the round bill or the square bill swim baits? Or crankbaits.
Oh, yeah, I'm assuming he means crankbait. Both.
Yeah, he means crankbaits.
I love crankbaits. I love cranking. Like, I'm going to crank anytime that I can crank a crankbait. It doesn't matter if it's a 3XD, a 10XD, a square bill. I don't care what it is. I'm going to crank. So every single thing that I can throw and move, that's what I want to be doing. That's my answer.
Power fishing. Power fisherman,
yep. Yeah. Move.
Same way. Well, anyway, Alex, like I said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up because we are running a little long on too. But Alex, thank you so much for coming on, man. Especially after my little videos. But
I like to have a good time, man. I tell people all the time, it's really hard to offend me. Like, you got to really do something to make me mad, because I just like having fun. So I'm down for whatever. I appreciate you having me on, man. I had a ton of fun, and I'm glad we got to do it. So
yeah, I pray we'll get to do it again, and definitely hope we get to meet up with you very soon in the future.
Absolutely, man.
Well, anyway, but guys, thank y'all so much for coming on and watching. Make sure y'all go over and subscribe to Alex's channel. And also, like I said, I will be putting it down in the description for the Monster Bass link. I also, go over there and get some of those Alex Rudd baits because they are very, very amazing, and I cannot wait to get my hands on them next month. And of course, Marshall, thank you for coming on and co-hosting with me. Y'all make sure you also go over and subscribe to Georgia Bassmaster as well, and check out his TikTok. You can see how he's found a way to.
That's where I've seen you from, dude. I was trying to figure out where I've seen you from. TikTok. Yeah, dude.
Yes, yeah, man.
Yes,
like honestly, he does these TikToks that I'm like, how has your wife not killed you yet?
Yes, TikTok. I was trying, dude. I was like the whole, and I was going to ask you when we got off. I was like, dude, where do I know him from? And it's freaking TikTok. Okay, yeah, dude. TikTok's funny, but okay, yeah, cool.
All right.
Sorry.
All right. Well, anyway, no, it's all good. It's all good. Anyway, thank you guys so much. God bless. We'll see you.